Afternoon, everybody. Jeff from Rust Bucket Valley Garage. We're still working on the 2019 Honda, and the driver reports that when they're driving along and they put the brake on from the front end someplace, there is a rubbing sound that comes, and with all the bad weather that we've had here in Southern California, the amount of potholes and suspension damage that I have seen is pretty much actually unprecedented. We've had about 5 cars in here with various kinds of suspension damage, with bent rims and broken tie rods, things like that. This one right here, it took just a little bit of troubleshooting to take and find out what was going on. We traced the rubbing sound to the right front. This is a right front. We did a couple of things. First thing we noticed is the backing plate on the bottom was bent real close to the rotor. So we went ahead and straightened that out, and that did not fix the problem. We took the rotor off of here, which we disassembled all the brakes and everything, pulled the rotor off. It's got a single screw right here. It's a number 3 Phillips. To disassemble that off there, we took the old rotor assembly back to the surface plate we have in the back shop. We did some precision measurements on it, and we found out that the hub area was not on the same plane as the pad area. Okay, so yesterday we went and we got a new rotor and put it on here. Okay, so we took it out, drove around a little bit. That still did not take and fix the problem. However, it was a little bit improved. Okay, there is no pulsation in the brake pedal, as you would expect. So the next thing we did is we took a look at the hub. Okay, the easy way to take and see if there's something going on with the hub is to take the brake caliper off and put the other side of the car up on a jack stand and put it in neutral with the engine off, and you can actually take and turn this. Okay, kind of unlocks the transmission. You can turn this, and what we did is we looked right down here, and as we went ahead and we rotated the disc inside the bracket, we could take and see that the disc was actually moving back and forth a few thousandths. Okay, and so that means that the hub that is here, that is part of this assembly here, is bent, and that was verified. We took took the disc rotor off, and we put a gauge on here and ran it around, and yes, it was bent. Okay, so we're going to be changing that. So there's several options when it comes to something like this that you can do. Okay, you can get a new bearing and you can get a new hub assembly at AutoZone, not a sponsor, or Napa, not a sponsor, and cost you a couple $100, you know, for that assembly. And then you either have your shop labor putting it together, because you need special tooling to pull the hub and the bearing off. So there is an actual OEM puller set that is made for this kind of a bearing. You have to take the nut off here, and you stick a drift in here. There is a notch that is pressed in here to keep the nut on, and there's a slot in the end of the CV shaft, and then you can take and spin this nut off, and then you can start pulling the assembly off. So So we kind of did an analysis. Okay, what do we want to take and do with this? Okay, since we don't do enough of these Hondas to take and warrant us obtaining a tool set, which is about $350, or renting one, which is $350, and then you get your money back. We just decided that since the impact of the pothole was enough to bend the rotor and the hub, okay, we don't know what kind of damage is back here in this steering knuckle, okay, so we also have to take and look at the shaft here and see if there's any marks on it or anything where shows that that's been flexed. And we have had a wheel alignment on this before, so if there is some damage in it, it is absolutely minimal, and we don't have to really be concerned about that. But the final decision that we decided to do is instead of pulling this all apart and everything and pressing the hub off, pressing the bearing out, getting a new bearing, getting a new hub, and then, you know, you still have the unknown damage in the steering knuckle here. We just decided to take and get another one from a salvage yard. So here we obtained another part. For Honda parts, Mike's Foreign Auto Parts on Anaheim and Wilmington is our go-to place. And when we work on Hondas, we've gotten quarter cuts on cars, which is like half the back of the car through the roof, like a whole quarter panel section, floor section, and very reasonable prices and everything. So this right here is already put together, okay, so, and it has a new wheel speed sensor on it and everything. We check the bearings is acceptable. We just got to clean it up a little bit, and we take this whole assembly off. There are approximately 5 bolts holding this whole assembly in, and there's no special tooling needed or anything. So we're just going to go ahead and change this whole thing. So after our diagnosis here, we're just going to start taking and tearing this apart. First thing we're going to do is there's a couple of things you can do before you have to put the wheel back on, because you're going to need some torque to take and take this nut off of here. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this little dent out right here so we can take and spin this nut off. But to get the torque and the tool that you need, we're just going to use a regular ratchet on it, and probably with a jeter bar. And I think the torque on this is probably about 100 foot-pounds, you know, I don't know, maybe 80. We haven't really looked it up, I'm just guessing. But we need to take and get this nut off so we can take and push the end of the CV shaft out. And then in the meantime, we can take the brakes off and get them hung, so we can actually take and wire up and hang things from the strut tower, you know, and they'll be up out of our way. But there are two 12mm bolts, one top, one bottom. There are two 18mm bolts that hold the actual bracket on, and then we can take and take the strut rod off right here, you know, for the sway bar. And oh, well, it's just to take and get it out of our way. But you know, not necessary, maybe. I don't know. We'll look at it. Anyway, we're going to start taking this thing apart, and I don't know. Probably the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the card pin out of here, take this nut off, give this a couple of taps on the side, drop this tie right off, and then we can take and get the nut that holds the lower boy joint, get that loose, and then the whole thing should take and start coming apart. We got to take our brake lines loose, and because there's a bracket on here. So, okay, so let's start the job. Okay, so this is everything assembled, and this is basically how we did it. We had to take this rod off because we couldn't get the turning on the strut tower to take in and get the bolt, so we had to take that off. It came off very, very easily. There was a bracket that is right here on the side here that holds the speed sensor and the brake lines. So there was one bolt in there, and there was two bolts over here, so we just took the one bolt out. We had the tie rod down. There is enough hose to take and lay the caliper all the way down with no stress on the line. Plenty of length left in there. We get the nut off the CV shaft, no problem. Just stuck a tool in there and opened up the nut just a little bit. As you can see, you know, we can go ahead and reuse this. Okay, spin it back on, really tighten it up, and then we pull the wheel back off. The lower ball joint, there were 3 bolts on the bottom of that. It is easier to take and go ahead and get those than it was to get this ball joint out. So now that we have the ball joint out, now we can take that and just pull that out, no problem. So total disassembly time, 20 minutes. How about that? So the only preparation that we have to do to put the new piece in is the replacement one comes with this bracket that was on here. So we got to take that bracket off because we have a bracket right here, and then we have to take the lower ball joint off, and we had to take and put that on the new piece, and then we'll be ready to take and go back together. Okay, so let's go over in summary what we had to do to finish this off. First off, when we took the other one off, leave this joint and this bolt here until last after you get everything else, because it allows this whole assembly to hang on something and you won't be muscling it during that time. We brought everything off on this bracket, so we didn't have to take and undo everything and take additional bolts out. We just, it's one 7/16 bolt that goes in here. Why they chose 7/16 on a Honda, I haven't the slightest idea. There's got to be a metric equivalent for it. If there is, I don't know what it is. Maybe somebody let me know in the comments. Yes, we did have to take this sway bar link off. We took it off right here to allow this tower to turn so we could take and get to the additional stuff that's on the back of this. One thing we did notice is the area where the tangs on the pads right into the caliper bracket. This was dry, so we greased those up, both sides, front and back, on the bottom. So went a nice quiet ride on the thing. And let me see, is there anything else? Yeah, there's one other thing. In putting the CV shaft back into this hub, if you get a piece from a reclamation yard that has a little bit of oxidation in it, take a wire brush and clean out the splines. This is a precision spline, okay, and it doesn't like oxidation. So go ahead and clean it out with a wire brush real good. Put a little coat of grease on there and you will be fine. Don't forget to take and torque your nut on here. Don't forget to take and put your little divot back in here to keep this nut from spinning off, because nasty things can happen. But all in all, this was not a real difficult job. Total time from beginning the job to the end of the job, hour and 25 minutes. Okay, this right here, if you were to take it to a shop, you'd probably be looking at about $1,000. Okay, the brakes on this were good, so we reused those. They were nice and flat. There's plenty of meat left on them. We put a rotor on it. It's about $70. We got the piece from Mike's Foreign Auto on Anaheim Boulevard in Wilmington, and that was about $250 plus tax. But the thing is, the amount of additional time and labor that that we saved, getting the pullers, getting the parts, all this kind of stuff, when we got assembly that was already together and we could just take and switch it out, countless, you can't even count how much you'd take and save on that. So I recommend that if you can get a good used part. For Honda parts, Mike's Foreign Auto, yeah, that's the place to go around here. So I hope you enjoyed this. I enjoyed doing this project. I enjoyed showing you and bringing you along. I always enjoy showing you things I think you might feel are useful. Try to bring you unusual things that it's kind of a head scratcher. Gee, I wonder what that could be. And when I figure them out, bring you along so you know too. Please subscribe, hit the notification button. You will be the first one to know when I do something new. Have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you next time.